Hi there everyone, and welcome to this Lunar Healing New Moon Yoga session. I'm so glad and grateful that you're able to join me for this session. I'm actually recording this just a day or two before the new moon in August. So I'm really feeling that connection with that new moon energy, which can be that energy that just invites us to really sink down towards the earth. For some, it's a time when the menstrual cycle enters into that inner winter phase, into the bleed time, into the period itself. And even if you don't have a menstrual cycle, it can still bring those same qualities of wanting to withdraw inward, to go to a more quieter state and a more inward state. And of course, so often in our culture and in our mind, we don't allow ourselves to enter into that state. It can be so tempting and feel so much easier just to kind of keep going with the ideas of productivity and achieving and creating. And actually what we can start to explore when we work with the magic of the lunar cycle is that we have times of the cycle when we can connect with that more creative, productive energy, and then times of the cycle when actually the creativity and productivity comes from coming in and reconnecting with ourselves, so that when we take this time to rest and renew, we can actually align ourselves a little bit more with our values and our beliefs, so that when we move into that busy action taking phase, we're actually working and living in a way that suits us and that benefits us, rather than just what's been imposed on us or what we think we should be doing. So learning to rest and relax really can lead you to such a path of joy and happiness in your life. And so however you're feeling today, maybe you're not feeling at all joyful and happy, which is totally fine. However you're feeling today, we're going to explore a practice, a restorative practice, because it's often at this time, whether you have a menstrual cycle and if you're bleeding or not, and if you have a menstrual cycle, maybe you're ovulating today, or if you don't have a menstrual cycle at all, as I said, the lunar energy applies to all of us. And the new moon can just be that time of just needing to retreat. And this is what this practice offers you today. So hopefully you're in a really nice space where you feel comfortable and safe. You're going to be nice and warm. You can keep your socks on for this whole practice. I always enjoy a yoga session where you can keep your socks on. And you want lots of bits and pieces to get really super warm and comfortable. So I've got a couple of yoga bolsters here. Now, you don't need to have yoga bolsters. Pillows would work, but I'd say really you want 4 pillows. If you've got 4 pillows would be really great. You might just have 1 bolster and 2 pillows, just, whatever you've got to hand. A thin cushion to support your head is not essential, but it can be nice. I mean, I think this is really the sort of practice where you want to give yourself as much tender loving care as possible. It's so easy to deprive ourselves of that and yet feel free that we want to offer it to everyone else. So if you've got something you can use to support your head, have it. A folded blanket would also work. Again, I've got yoga equipment here. I've got blocks and bricks. If you don't have these, you can just use cushions. You can just use blankets. If you feel like you don't have enough blankets, just use towels. Really doesn't matter. And then I've got a pile of blankets here. I think I've got about 3 blankets here. So you might like to have the same. You might be happy with just one. It's totally up to you. And an eye pillow. If you have an eye pillow to cover the eyes, then that could be really beneficial as well. An eye mask is also fine, or even just a scarf just to cover your eyes can also work well. Okay, so let's begin our practice today. Just that reminder that I am pregnant whilst teaching this class, but this class is totally fine for pregnancy at all stages. So our first posture that we're going to take, I call the yoga armchair, because to me it just feels as comfortable as when you relax into an armchair. So you'll want your 2 bolsters or pillow substitutes. One of these bolsters is going to be to support your spine. Now you can just have a bolster flat on the mat like mine is here, perhaps with that cushion to support the head. But if you feel like you might need more support for your lower back, then this is where a couple of bricks can be helpful. So you could And this is sometimes a bit more comfortable in pregnancy, that you're not having to arch back so far. You could just elevate your bolster. So if you don't have bricks, just anything, steady here, like lunch boxes would work fine. Books, if you don't mind, using your books as yoga equipment could also work. But do feel free to just keep this flat on the floor as well. This second bolster or pillow is to support the backs of the knees. So you're going to sit with your bottom right up against this bolster, and you will be lowering yourself back. Now, because I've elevated my bolster, what I personally would do is just take a couple of blankets, fold them up, have them either side of me, and these will be to support my arms. Because when you lie down and back, you want your elbows to be supported, otherwise the shoulders can start to get tired. Of course, cover yourself with a blanket. And anything else you need. If you are wearing glasses or heavy jewellery or anything that might dig into the back of your head, take it all off. Just pop that safely to the side. And then carefully lower yourself down. So if you're lowering all the way down to the mat and it feels a bit much for your lower back, try and recreate something similar to what I have here with the blocks underneath the bolster, so that you don't have to arch through the lumbar spine so much. And then again, just make sure that your elbows are resting against something. So if the floor feels a bit far away, which it might if you've elevated your bolster, then blankets or towels or cushions, whatever you've got, can just come and rest underneath the arms. And so this is where we're going to begin. So you can start that practice of slowing down at this point. And that might involve just taking any little adjustments that you need. If something's not in quite the right position, perhaps you need to adjust that pillow under your head. We just want to make sure the chin is dropping a little bit towards the chest as opposed to pointing to the ceiling. I don't want the throat to be exposed. So this is where a cushion under the head is useful, so you can make that thicker if you need to. I sometimes, occasionally, will fold my pillow in half, so I've got extra support under the head, depending on how my neck's feeling that day. So if there's anything like that that you want to adjust, anything relating to your blankets and your bolster, and take your time. We have time. There is time. Any worries or cares? If you're feeling a bit frazzled with things to do, just see if you can give yourself permission to put all of that to one side as you take this practice. Recognize that calming yourself down, so reducing that feeling of stress in both your mind and your body, will help you deal with any tasks that you have to deal with in a more effective manner. So you actually can increase that sense of productivity by relaxing and resting. Of course, we're not really here to increase our productivity. We're here to rest just for the pure joy of resting. But sometimes the mind just needs a little bit of something, doesn't it? A little bit of incentive, like dangling that carrot. So just let your mind know that this is not only going to benefit you physically, but also mentally and emotionally, and really help you find that greater productivity, if that's what you're looking for, or maybe to feel more creative. It's very hard to be creative and stressed. And then there's that sense of just sinking and landing. Perhaps taking one or two slightly deeper inhales. And then releasing the exhales and allowing your body to sink down to the bolsters and pillows, towards your mats, towards the earth. And acknowledge that you are here to receive. You are here to receive these practices. To enter into that more feminine energy, which has got nothing to do with being female, by the way. The more yin energy of being receptive, of surrendering, and just learning to trust a little bit more in that flow of life, not trying to control the flow, but just allowing the flow to take you where it will. Of course, you might find that your mind is very busy, that it's hard to detach from thinking. And that's totally normal and okay. But you might like just to come back to your breath. And softly breathe in. And softly breathe out. Nose or mouth, doesn't matter. Softly breathing in. And softly breathing out. And if this is feeling good for you, this slow and soft inhale, followed by a slow and soft exhale, then just stay with the breath. And at any point, if you just want to let the breath go, if you want to let go of thinking about your breath, then that is also fine. I want to offer you some silence in this evening's class, or maybe this morning's class, depending on when you're practicing. But I am here with you, and I am taking the practice with you today, which is not something I usually do. But hey, it is the new moon, and so this is where I'm at. I really am imagining you all in different times of year, in your different homes, different countries, some of you outside of the UK, but all of us united beyond time and space just to practice in connection with this beautiful lunar energy. So just take a couple of moments just to reflect on your time in this posture. Notice, if you can, where your mind has been taking you. Our intention is not to stop thinking, but rather become aware of the thoughts. So we can develop that attitude of compassion and curiosity rather than that attitude of being critical or judgmental. And when we become more reflective, we might notice, at the start of the posture, my mind was busy, and then it kind of went a bit quiet, and then I was daydreaming, and then I felt sleepy, and then something alerted me again. And we start to recognize that our thoughts have their own cycle, and that we don't always have to respond to every single thought. So we are going to transition. And you could make this transition really, really simple by simply bringing the soles of the feet together, knees wide. So I'll just take off my blanket for anyone that just needs to see what I'm doing. So you could just do this posture, Supta Baddha Konasana, I like to call receiving posture. You could do this just with the bolster under the legs. Or if you wanted to, you could carefully sit yourself up, slide that bolster to the side, and then use a couple of big cushions, or if you've got bricks and blocks, use them. Now, because I've used my bricks under my bolster, I would probably take a couple of blankets and put them on top of the blocks, because the purpose here is not to deeply stretch the inner thighs. We're trying to really soften the lower abdomen. So if anyone's got any digestive issues at the moment, or if you are struggling with any menstrual pain, then this softening of the abdomen can be really helpful. So as I said, the simplest thing is to not really move and just bring the soles of the feet together, but it depends how you feel with the shape and size of your bolster, and if you need a different amount of support beneath the legs. So whatever you're choosing to do, just move nice and gently. Come back to making yourself comfortable. I'm going to pop my blanket over myself, because even though it's August, we're having a bit of a volatile August here in the UK, and today is actually a bit autumnal. I'm going to keep myself nice and warm. And then we come into our second posture, which in some ways, of course, is similar to the first, similar in that we've got all of this length for the abdomen. So a heart opening posture, opening your heart space, that source of your love and compassion, of your joy, but also where our grief rests. And so any work that we do with opening this chest and upper body region can sometimes bring some of those emotions, anything linked to love, anything linked to grief. Perhaps they're just all on the same spectrum anyway. But we can find that anything that's been held back, that's ready to bubble up to the surface, can bubble up to the surface here. So remember, stay kind, but also just stay present. These postures are designed to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which means that we're generally in a more calm, quiet state, which can sometimes make it easier to let our emotions rise and fall. Just like earlier, we were just reflecting on how the thoughts were changing size and shape. We can also acknowledge how our emotions do the same thing. So working with opening the heart space, also lots of length for the abdomen here, which can feel really good during menstruation, can feel really good in pregnancy, and can just also feel like if really nice if you've been hunched over your laptop, if you just want to get a lot more space for those digestive organs which are so tightly packed in. Hips are opening the pelvic space, Swadhisthana chakra, the second chakra. It's important that you're really comfortable here. If you experience any tugging or pulling around your pelvis, around the inner thighs, please make sure that you put more support under the legs. Don't just put up with it. Remember, we're here to give ourselves that tender, loving care. And we've been here for a little while already, but some of you might feel like you want to just come back to that slow and soft breath. And just sink your awareness into your body. Notice all of this support, the support behind your head, your spine, perhaps under the arms, under the legs. Know that you are being supported. As you exhale here, you might just imagine your belly dropping into your pelvis. Maybe taking a sigh as you do that. Relaxing your tongue so it's just loose in your mouth. Sinking towards the lower palate. Allowing the eyes to become a little heavier. As if the closed eyes were just dropping down to look towards your chest. Imagining your brain is just shrinking away from the forehead, like a walnut floating in space, and just floating and sinking towards the back of your head. as if shrinking through space. Allowing thoughts to come and go, emotions to rise and fall, inviting yourself just into stillness. Now, if this is just feeling like total heaven for you, and I really hope it is, then you can just stay in this posture for longer. I'm going to show you a posture next, which is still restorative, but can be a struggle if you have any issues with your ankles, your knees, your hips, or your sacrum. So there's a few reasons why this next posture isn't always suitable for everyone. So by all means, you stay here as long as you like, just checking in that the hips aren't getting overstretched, particularly if you are premenstrual, menstruating, or pregnant. Whilst doing this posture, you 100% don't want to overstretch, particularly true for pregnant women. So, if you're interested in transitioning to the next posture, well, of course, you can always go back to the first posture as well if you get tired of having the legs open. You might just pause for a moment with the feet on the floor and the knees pointing to the ceiling. And then to come out to the side, I usually prefer just to roll a little bit onto the side. And you could roll all the way to the floor, or you could just roll sideways onto your bolster for a couple of moments. You don't have to stay here for a really long time. And then, of course, you can come up to sit. I'm sure many of you watching will know how much I love that posture. The next posture, we're going to keep the bolster in this position. And again, having it in this elevated position will make this next posture easier. So you might want to elevate your bolster, even if you haven't done it already. So this is where the tricky bit can come in for the lower half of the body, because we're going to sit back onto our heels. And some of you, if you're a bit more flexible, can sit with your bum in between your heels, but don't force yourself to do that if your body isn't open for it, because of course you don't want to be aggressive. Now, so I'm sitting back on my heels. Now from here, we're going to lower ourselves backwards. So this is sometimes what people find tricky. Also, if your quads are very tight, you kind of know about it here. But for those of you that are able to do it, this is wonderful for your digestion. So you basically can make this posture easier by making this bolster higher. So the more upright you come. You can also take some support, be that your blocks or blankets, underneath the arms. Once you come in to the posture, you can have your knees wider apart or closer together. Sometimes it feels easier to slide your bum in between your heels once you're leaning backwards, so you could try that. Just is very dependent on your individual body. And as I've mentioned, if this just doesn't feel like this is going to be accessible for you, just stay in either of the first two postures. We won't be in this one for as long. So if you have moved posture, even in just the smallest way, made the smallest adjustment, or you've just been watching and listening for a little while, if you've come a little bit out of that inward state, just take the time now to close your eyes once again, go back inwards. Come back to a soft, slow breath. Now in a few moments, if you're in the same position as me, Supta Virasana, reclining hero posture, and you can start to think about moving out. And just be careful how you come out of this posture, because you can't really roll to the side. So you're going to use your arms and your hands to push yourself up, and as much as you can, try to push up evenly. So try not to twist. So the right half and the left half of your body come up at the same time. And then you can release your legs. If you've been in one of the previous postures, you can slowly make your way out of it now. Just lengthening your legs, rolling to the sides. And so from here, you're going to keep your bolster in the middle of the mat. It doesn't need to be on the bricks at this point. You can also keep your cushion it's always an option. And you might like to have a folded blanket in between the legs here. So you're going to sit so that your left hip is in line with this bolster. Legs are just folded in front of you, not in any particular way. I'm not sitting on my feet, just to be clear. So my feet are just kind of next to my right hip and under my right leg. Don't worry if this feels a bit unstable. You're probably leaning a bit to the left. We're not going to be here for long. We're coming to a downward twist. Now this is perfectly fine for pregnancy, but in pregnancy you don't want to be sitting so close to the bolster. You want a little bit of space there for the bump. Otherwise the bolster can be that little bit closer. If you're using a blanket as a cover, it can be helpful just to put that on now, so you've kind of got that wrapped around you. I won't do that, just so you can see what it is I'm actually doing. And actually this is quite a useful time for pillows. Bolsters are good here, but sometimes it's nice just to have a pillow either side of your bolster. I don't have pillows on me, but I will just use my blocks instead. These also work, but of course pillows are softer. So you could have a bit of support either side of that bolster. We're coming into a downward facing twist, and we start by inhaling and lengthening through the spine. And then as you exhale, you're going to twist your torso towards the bolster. Now, don't over twist your belly, especially if you're pregnant and if you're menstruating. Try not to really feel there's that much in your abdomen, just a little bit of movement. And then what we're really, all of us are exploring is more of a movement of the chest. So this is on the exhale. So you're twisting and turning, this right buttock is lifting. And then you're going to fold yourself forward and down. So again, just making sure if you're pregnant, you've got plenty of space for bump. And you can choose which direction you want your head to face. Facing away from your knees will be a bit stronger for the neck. So you might want to just keep the head facing the same direction of the knees. And if you've got blocks or pillows, it's nice to scrunch them right underneath your armpits here. Now, if you are pregnant, you might not feel like staying in this twist for that long. And that's totally fine. So if you need to come out of the posture, please do, and just sit or lie comfortably. Or if you're confident, you can go and take the twist straight on the other side. So just invite any tension between your shoulder blades to soften, release. if your head is turned away from your knees, begin by turning your head to face the same direction as your knees. And then you can use your hands, your arms to push yourself up. So remember, you're coming out of a twist. So just come out nice and slowly. And then just sit so that you're facing forward for a moment. Just take a few breaths here. Perhaps just noticing how that right side of your back body has opened and lengthened, perhaps. More space for your breath. And then we'll take that twist on the other side. So you could just simply turn and face the other direction. I'm going to move my equipment so I'm still facing you. So we want to end up now with that right hip next to the bolster, remembering to allow a little bit of space if there's a bump. Perhaps you enjoyed having that folded blanket between the legs, maybe that blanket wrapped around you to keep yourself warm. Using your breath to come into the twist, start with the inhale, grow tall. As you exhale, just a gentle turn of the belly and then focusing more on the turn of the ribs and the chest. And then lowering yourself down, nice and steady, making sure that your comfort is your priority. Turning your head whichever direction suits you best. Propping up those armpits if that's available to you. And then inviting your body to become heavy and to settle. And just breathe in once or twice into your upper back. And as you exhale, just inviting that space between the shoulder blades to soften and release. remember that you can come out of the twist at any time. Now, if you've got your gaze turned away from the knees, begin by turning the head back. And then when you're ready, always using your hand and your arm, push yourself out of the twist. So you might look down to the bolster. As you do that, slowly push up. Come to sit with a neutral spine, so just a comfortable seated position. Take a few moments here. And then allowing your eyes to softly open if they're not already there. And we're going to come into a child's pose. So you can do this in quite a simple way by just folding over the bolster. This won't feel good if you've got a bump. If you want to fold over the bolster but make it a little bit easier, you can come back to this elevated bolster that we had at the start of the practice, so you don't have to fold forward so much. And if it's just not feeling comfortable for you to have the bolster pressing against your belly, you can turn the bolster long ways across the mat. You can take a blanket and just fold it over your thighs, so over your lap, tucking it under the belly, and then just quite nice just to kind of pull it tight. So you want to pull it tight over your thighs, and then you can fold forward, knees are wide, and then you create like almost like a little hammock for the bump. So this might be nice in pregnancy. It depends how far along you are. The others might also be fine. So you're taking the child's pose of your choice. If this doesn't feel good for you in pregnancy, I personally haven't enjoyed child's pose at all in pregnancy, then just come into Shavasana. But even just 1 minute here will just be a lovely lower back stretch. And so you could just breathe into your lower back a few times. Inviting your shoulders to slide from the ears. If you haven't done so already, and you're turning to gaze in one direction, and you can turn and face in the other direction now. You decide you're ready to come out at any point, come into Shavasana, lying on your side in pregnancy. Now from child's pose, you can begin to use your arms and your hands to push yourself up to sitting. And then make your way into Shavasana. So side lying in pregnancy, generally recommended when you get to the second trimester. Really depends on your own comfort. Generally lying on the left. And just bringing that top leg onto the bolster or your pillow. Make sure your knee isn't too high up. And actually it's quite nice if you've got a cushion of some sort that you can use to support your top arm. And of course, if you're not pregnant, you can just nice and simple lie flat on your back. And make sure that you're going to be warm and comfortable. Coming into yoga nidra now. And you just want to be able to be still. To make your body as comfortable as you can so you can enter into that stillness. And perhaps allow yourself a couple of slow sighs or slow yawns. Just to enter and settle into your resting place. Hopefully feeling some benefits of that beautiful long restorative practice. And now inviting yourself to settle, imagining your muscles sliding off your bones, as if your arms and your legs were becoming a little heavier, as if the edges and boundaries of your body were becoming a little softer. And just feeling that support of whatever you are lying on. Allowing your eyes to just drop towards the back of the head. Imagining your cheeks are becoming hollow, as if the skin were just hanging off your cheekbones. Feeling the jaws becoming softer, upper jaw and lower jaw. And inviting a sense of space behind your ears. As if all of your thoughts could just drain out from behind the ears. And start to notice the whole back of your body. And invite the back of your body to surrender to whatever it is you are lying on. A mat, carpet, bolsters, pillows, etc. Allow yourself just to sink down to your support. And allow yourself just to go that little bit deeper. Sinking that little bit more deeply into your support, into the practice. Inviting yourself into stillness. And And feel as though you are at this resting place. As if you were at that point between inhale and exhale. As if you had somehow just pressed pause. And perhaps you have some sense of the world continuing to turn around you. Perhaps there is some background noise drifting through, the occasional thought. But feel as though your body and your soul are entering into this place of deep and nourishing rest. And allow your awareness to rest just above the crown of your head. Maybe just a few inches above the crown, the top of your head. And imagine that a white healing light is pouring down onto the crown of your head, the back of your head, down your neck and your spine, all the way to your tailbone. As if you had this healing white light moving from your crown to your base, that whole length of spine. And begin to imagine now that that same light can wash over the eyebrow center, the tip of your tongue, and your throat. Healing white light pouring down your right arm, into your right hand, and down your left arm, and into your left hand. Feel this light flowing over your heart space, your belly, and into your pelvis. Imagine this light flows through your right leg, into your foot, and your left leg, into your foot. And feel that your whole body is being bathed in this radiant white light. Almost as if you were floating on an ocean of light. And this ocean is both without you and within you. And you can feel yourself becoming heavy and light, both heavy and light. And notice how your breath just comes and goes, as if rocking you gently on this ocean of light. And allow yourself now to surrender to this need to rest. To surrender to the flow of life. And to allow this flow to take you where it will, not where you will it. Allow your awareness to rest at the space of your heart, as if you could sink more deeply into your heart, sinking more deeply into your being. And resting here for a few minutes of silence. Let all the sounds come and go as you rest in awareness. And perhaps you're going to stay here just drifting and floating in this sea and ocean of light, resting in the bliss of non-doing and non-achieving, and just receiving. Perhaps you have some awareness of this outside world, of sound, of touch, of smell, of taste, and perhaps that darkness behind the closed eyes. And perhaps you might just open yourself up to the possibility of a message from your intuition, your higher self, a message coming up to the surface. Perhaps you're just open to receive, or just content in this blissful emptiness. And so you might just stay here, or you might feel the need now to begin to move a little. And you can move in any way that feels good. You might do some small movements or some bigger movements. You might find that you need to sigh or yawn or swallow. Maybe roll to your side. So just enjoy your transition back to the more waking world, bringing that compassion and curiosity to coming from one state of consciousness to another. You might lie on your side for a while. Softly returning your eyes to the light. Before you come up to sit. And locate your notebook and pen. These are the journaling questions for the new moon. You might find you have some things to scribble down immediately, that you just want to let these questions sit with you into the rest of your day or evening or weekend or whatever lies ahead. The first question: how can I honour my need for self-care at this time? How can I honour my need for self-care at this time? Second question: how can I slow myself down? How can I slow myself down? And then the final question: which area of my life needs my contemplation right now? Which areas of my life need my contemplation right now? And so I'll allow a few minutes just for you to consider, reflect, respond to any of those questions. Remembering there's no urgent need for answers, but just jotting down any insight or ideas. And so, of course, I'd like to invite you to spend as long as you want with those questions. Maybe you can just come back to them in the next couple of days as well, and of course the next new moon you can reconsider your answers if anything's changed and shifted, but they really are just for you to act as a guide. So I'd like to bring this practice to a close now. So perhaps you'll join me in sitting comfortably, placing your left hand over the heart space, the right hand over the lower abdomen, softly closing your eyes. And just breathing some air into that space below both hands. Breathing into your belly and your heart. Soft, easy breath. Feeling your buttocks on whatever you're sitting on. And then sliding that right hand over the left hand, lightly bowing your chin towards your heart, as if just acknowledging that quieter wisdom of the heart. And then we will end the practice there. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice, everyone. I have so enjoyed sharing it with you from my heart to yours. Do come back to it every new moon. It can be such a useful, practical way to incorporate more restful techniques and practices into your life, to create a sense of rhythm in your life, particularly if life ever feels a bit crazy or chaotic, just tuning into the wider rhythms that we're always a part of. So I very much hope you have enjoyed it, and I look forward to sharing more practices with you soon. Thank you.